in love or know of someone that's been in love or are all familiar with the concept, you'll know that usually love is coupled with some pretty irrational behavior. Today, we're going to talk about irrational behavior, but also especially about love. Today, I'm joined with a very special guest. This is Lucy. I'm Valerie Escobar. I'm a senior financial planner. Lucy's just a dog. And Michael here is also joining as well.
Lucy is definitely more special than me.
Welcome to Your Life Simplified. And today we are going to talk about dogs and cats and all the animals that we love. And the reason that I brought up love was just because as a pet owner, I have many, many pets. We know that as Americans, especially, we spend a crazy amount of money on our pets because we love them. We love that hit of dopamine that we get from being around our pets, makes it so that we become very attached to them and willing to spend exorbitant amounts of money. And so I think today's discussion, I'd like to go around how to prepare for that, how to be best, situated so that when the crazy stuff happens, that we are able to cover those expenses and to make sure that we're planned ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting query, right? You start talking about, like, obviously the finances, and as soon as finances are meshing with something like love, the waters can kind of get muddy as far as, like, hey, what do I do financially here? But obviously still considering your best interest, and you have this care and this love for this pet, right? So I think, because those waters are so muddy, it can be difficult to know. And I mean, I think just right off the bat, one of the questions I just have for you, because I'm not a pet owner. I was previously, but I'm not a pet owner. And I think a lot of people have this question, is just, should I have pet insurance?
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. The thing, and I like to start there because, as I said, for me, this is Lucy here. She's 7. And luckily Lucy's going to live forever. She's immortal. But most Australian shepherds have a life expectancy around, 12 to 15 years. And so at some point, there's a good chance that something might happen, right? There could be a big accident. She gets hit by a car, or there could be more hereditary things, like maybe she has a hip dysplasia is pretty common, like a cancer of some sort of thing. I am so emotionally attached to this dog that if I go to the vet, and here's a story actually of a friend of mine, her dog had a bilateral TPLO surgery. Basically, both knees went bad at the same time. It's a larger breed dog. It ended up costing her $10,000 to get that fixed. And me, if I went to the vet and they said, sorry, $10,000 or you're going to have to let go, I'm spending the $10,000.
Right.
There's just no question. And so even though that's a really bad decision, if I don't have $10,000, and really, I mean, it's
Right.
just a dog, that love, I feel, is going to be overarching. And so the question that you asked is about pet insurance. So I'm going to talk about Pets Best because that's one of the most popular pet insurance out there. They have an accident insurance policy. It costs $30 a month, so $360 a year. And it covers big accidents. It covers cancer, hereditary condition, emergency care, surgeries, medicines for prescription medications. It's $500 deductible, and then it covers 90%. So if the $10,000 expense came up, it'd be a fraction of that. Maybe I'd be paying, if I could do math, that's like $1,000 or something. But if I put it into context and say, well, Lucy is 7, in another 7 years, I'll be out of pocket to $2,520, right, for the rest of her life. She has a $10,000 accident and I've only spent $2,500. Yeah, It's a no-brainer. It's much easier. And even if nothing ever does happen to her, $30 a month,
Which you would hope.
You don't really feel it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you hope that it doesn't happen. I think, what you're touching on there is so important. That is, there's this tendency to just want to always sometimes look at things just from like a math standpoint. You hear that term, money is not math, right? Math is not money. And, you look at something like a pet And you could say, yeah, financially, maybe it doesn't make sense for 2/3 of the population to have pet insurance because, well, you're better off saving the difference. But then you play that scenario out of sitting there and having to maybe make that decision of, okay, am I going to pay $10,000 out of pocket or am I not going to take care of my pet? Obviously, nobody wants to be in that situation. And I think it's crucial to kind of look through it through the lens of, and which pet owners probably are better at than maybe people that don't have pets, of, hey, this isn't just an odds game that I'm playing here. This is something where I just don't ever want to be faced with that. And, for me personally, I just don't ever even want to be in that situation where I have to make that decision of paying out of pocket or just not taking care of my pet. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And then, on top of that, so that's an accident policy. You can also get a well-being policy on top of that. And I did some math on this too, right? So there's kind of a basic and an advanced, or what do you call it? Like more
comprehensive
best wellness versus essential wellness, more comprehensive. Thank you. And really the math comes down to, so let's say I get my comprehensive one is $26 a month additional, right? So now we're $30 for the basic plus an extra 26. I mean, it's starting to get substantial, but for that, effectively it covers the things that you're going to want to take care of. So rabies shots, heartworm, just regular vaccines, annual healthcare, all of that. If I'm getting that advanced one, it's going to cost me, $312 a year, but I'm spending about, I'm spending about $650 at least just for her medical stuff every year. And so if I get that best wellness, it's going to give me effectively a discount of $135 a year. And then it's already, it's taken care of. So it's not a huge discount. $132 a year is not really that big of a discount. And then you have to go and submit the paperwork to get the deductibles and blah, blah, blah. So that's a little bit more of a hit and miss, like to me, it's the catastrophic stuff that I'm most concerned about. So, and that's a personal thing, right? If you're like, if it motivates you to make sure you're getting your vaccines, and obviously this is a very spoiled dog. She gets all the things, because I don't want anything to go wrong with her. But so that is available.
Yeah, it's as with any insurance, which this isn't always the case, but it's important to highlight, it's the infrequent events that are high in cost that we should theoretically be insuring against, right? So things that happen frequently, and this has always been really interesting to me, but for example, like, the percentage of people that have phone insurance versus life insurance, just like a basic term insurance policy versus, insuring your phone. And it's like, well, yeah, I should insure my phone because I think just about everybody's broken their phone at some point in time. But when you start playing things out, it's pretty typical, depending on how you are with your phone, I guess. I'm a little worse, to maybe have insurance in those infrequent areas more than those frequent. So is that what you're saying here, as far as like pet insurance, maybe insuring, again, those larger costs, but the more frequent ones, that's kind of a little bit more iffy?
That's exactly right. Yeah. If anything, I like to look at it and just say, okay, so these are the costs that I should be planning on if I'm going to own a pet.
Gotcha.
I'm not big on chasing down pennies. So I think our guest is tired of this show. In general, she's quite happy to be with me. So she might abandon ship. You'll have to explain to her.
I had another question for you.
Please.
Again, this is, a question that pops up at times. I think everybody rushes to the excitement of just owning a pet. Like I have a friend that literally just saw a post for a Scottish fold cat, and that was it. I mean, she was gone and she went and got the cat. Cat's back already, right? How much does it cost? Just, lifetime costs, how much should one just anticipate the cost of a pet over the course of a lifetime?
Yeah. So I think one thing is so my expertise is mostly on shelter dogs and cats, because that's where I usually get mine. So, $75, you go to the shelter, they spay and neuter them and spay or neuter them, give them kind of their basic things. And you come home with a pet. Right. And so, then you buy leashes and collars and food and all of that stuff. That stuff's pretty easy. You know, if you're going to go put clothes on your pet and do, you know, give them treatments at the spa, that's a different thing. I don't know how much that stuff costs, but it can be a lot. But in general, I would certainly say that, you know, I would say $1,000 a year is probably a pretty light commitment, or at least like financially, you're going to say that's the bottom floor to get in. You want to take good care of a pet, then it's going to probably be about $1,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, the ROI there, I'm sure any pet owner would say is well justified.
That's exactly right. 100%. And, you know, and like you said, like money is emotions. Like I'm never going to tell my client, like, sorry, you've got to give up your pet, because that's just not going to fit in your budget. It's more like, how are we going to get rid of other things?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always interesting. You know, people seem a lot more confident in their answer before they get to that moment in time. Mm-hmm. And I would say it's very similar in a lot of ways to college and parents paying for college. And as soon as, you know, the child gets to that brink of, okay, you know, hey, I'm going to have to cover, you know, 10, 20,000, let's say, extra just in college. And the parents have, you know, enough saved up to maybe pay for half of it or 2/3 of it. It's interesting how many parents kind of switch their narrative and suddenly say, yeah, we should really consider maybe taking on a larger part of this cost, either in the form of like a Parent Plus loan or something else. And so, you know, I think having that vulnerability to maybe say, okay, there's a pretty large chance I'm going to get emotionally connected to this pet, and I maybe just don't want to be in that situation. I think that's intelligent in a different way that's not just math, as we've touched on.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, renting a pet. I have a friend, a couple that they are not pet owners, but they very frequently babysit Lucy for me when I'm out of town and things. And I think it works really well because the other consideration is housing. This is a true story and it's ridiculous. But when I moved to Kansas City, I wanted to rent first because I didn't know the area, but I have she's chewing on her toes. That's gross. I have 2 cats and a dog. And I was like, well, where am I going to live? Looking for places to rent. Nobody's going to rent a house to you or an apartment with 3 animals, right? And so I literally bought a house for my pets. You know how stupid that is? Like, but I was like, well, I don't have anywhere to live. I guess I have to buy them.
You know, housing went up, you know, quite a bit here recently. So I ended up working at your pets. I think they just well justified their cost. I mean,
right.
Your ROI right there. They just pushed you to buy a house, and maybe that got you in, and you know you ended up making it back on the equity.
Thank you. That is a great point. They've made me probably 20% over the last 2 years, 3 years. So, but I mean, people are, you know, another friend of mine said that her dog is old and it can't do stairs, so they have to find a 1-story, you know, and just so many different things like that. Like you can't date somebody if they're allergic to cats, and I've got cats.
Right. That's me. That's me. I'm allergic to cats. Yeah. That's part of the reason why I'm not married yet.
Okay, I was going to say, you got to put that on your dating profile. Allergic to cats. Sorry.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal for some people. I do have another question too. I think, you know, and you may have touched on this a little bit, but like, how do you even go about, let's say you listen to this, or just in general, you're just like, hey, I want to get some type of pet insurance policy. Maybe it's more in the accident, let's just say realm. How does that process work? I mean, do you have, you know, I know how it works, like with life insurance, where you maybe have like somebody come out and do a medical and you fill out a questionnaire. How does that work? Obviously, there's so many different types of breeds and situations, pre-existing conditions. How does that work?
Yeah. So with the pets, you tell them the age, the breed, and if there's been any medical history in the past. They won't come out and do, like you said, full underwriting or anything like that. But given, you know, really large dogs will have joint problems. Really small dogs like pugs, that they have like a short nose, they'll have a lot of breathing problems. And so there's a lot, you know, just statistically, that depending on the breed, that's what the different costs are. Like I said, those costs that I was talking about are about Australian Shepherds. They're a medium-sized dog. They don't have a ton of health issues. If you go to the shelter and get a mutt, mutts are usually much more healthy because there's genetically there's not inbreeding that happens. So that's another thing, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So get a mutt. They're cheaper. They're cute, and they don't cost, and they have less health problems.
From the outside, that's like kind of surprising.
Mm-hmm.
I've had dogs, but I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like well versed. I wouldn't have guessed that. That's surprising.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
interesting.
Yep. I think for cats, I think that's probably about the same thing. I'm much more of a dog.
Yeah.
Cats are, they're probably going to plot to kill you, in case you were curious.
Yeah.
Good. I have 2. I still survive. But yes, I have much more dog knowledge.
Any other just thoughts or just points, that are worth considering as far as just in general cost of ownership with pets, but also just things that financially maybe one should be thinking about when it comes to pets?
I think just think ahead, when things are going to get tough, you emotionally are going to be unable to make smart decisions, right? Like, I'm not going to look at my checkbook and be like, sorry, I'm short on money. And, things just cost a lot, and they add up. And so having that budget and saying, like, not just saying, she'll be fine on cheapo food and
right,
you don't need vaccines. Like, you're going to get attached and you're going to want to spend that extra money. So just
right,
trying to be smart ahead of time, I think, is the best route.
Yeah. I think too, it can create like an interesting dynamic in the relationship, because you'll have varying opinions about like how something should be handled. Cause maybe it's, like something that is not like life threatening, but would obviously help the dog, but it costs $6,000-7,000. And one spouse might say, maybe we shouldn't do that. And another spouse is like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
How can you even flinch? So it can like estate planning in certain ways, it can lead to maybe some internal conflicts that aren't desired. And in addition to just not wanting to ever be in that spot. Right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, again, this is just something that obviously I don't know a ton about. And it sounds like there's anything else worth considering beyond that, or just things you want to share?
I don't think so. I mean, as always, email us, contact us if you have other questions. We can help with that. But yeah, I think just in general, it's going to cost a lot of money. But, when your heart is involved, go for it. Just plan ahead.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Valerie. That was insightful. Again, I as I mentioned to you before, hey, I'm excited just to learn a little bit more about this because I don't know anything really about it. If you're listening to this, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever it is that you're listening, make sure to hit subscribe to learn more, to get more content from industry professionals about these different types of subjects, whether it's pets, just wealth management, just general financial planning. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening to What Your Life Simplified. I'm Michael MacKelvie. I'm joined by Valerie Escobar.
Thank you.
Mariner Wealth Advisors, or MWA, is an SEC-registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in the state of Kansas. Registration of an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. MWA is in compliance with the current notice filing requirements imposed upon registered investment advisors by those states in which MWA maintains clients. MWA may only transact business in those states in which it is notice filed or qualifies for an exemption or exclusion from notice filing requirements. Any subsequent direct communication by MWA with a prospective client shall be conducted by a representative that is either registered or qualifies for an exemption or exclusion from registration in the state where the prospective client resides. For additional information about MWA, including fees and services, please contact MWA or refer to the Investment Advisor Public Disclosure website at www.advisorinfo.sec.gov. Please read the disclosure statement carefully before you invest or send money. The views expressed in this podcast is for educational purposes only and do not take into account any individual personal, financial, legal, or tax considerations. As such, the information contained herein is not intended to be personal, legal, investment, or tax advice. Nothing herein should be relied upon as such, and there is no guarantee that any claims made will come to pass. The opinions are based on information and sources of information deemed to be reliable, but Mariner Wealth Advisors does not warrant the accuracy of the information. Asset allocation diversification is a strategy designed to manage risk, but it cannot ensure a profit or protect against a loss in a declining market. Certified Financial Planner, trademark, CFP, registered trademark, and federally registered CFP with flame design marks, collectively the CFP registered marks, are professional certification marks granted in the United States by Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, Inc., also CFP Board. The CFP, registered trademark, certification is a voluntary certification. No federal or state law or regulation requires financial planners to hold the CFP certification.